This video will take you through how to use responsive design with Bootstrap. First, we'll cover what responsive design is and what adaptive design is and the differences between them. We'll also talk about which one you should use for your projects. So, the thing to remember is that the size of display screens vary greatly. When the first iPhone was released in 2006, suddenly designers had to accommodate not just the growing sizes of computer monitors, but the shrinking sizes of mobile device screens. Initially, websites were shown in their full form, but shrunk down for the use of a mobile. However, this created nearly unusable websites on the iPhone, as it was originally only 320 pixels wide in portrait orientation. The text was too small to read and links were too small to touch with the finger without accidentally touching the link next to them. So what could we do as designers to respond to that? The solution was adaptive design, where the user would be redirected to a different version of the site that was designed specifically for an iPhone. This enabled the designer not just to create a layout specific for the mobile device, but they could tailor the content as well. This ensured that large files were not included in the mobile design, such as videos or large graphics. However, it relied on a limited variety of mobile devices as it only targeted specific sizes. Also, the web designer would need to keep both versions of the website up to date, and that took a lot more time. Then we encountered new problems. So when it was just the iPhone, that was fine. It was one size, but new devices came out. So the designs for iPhones as being a separate design was only a stopgap for a short amount of time. With the popularity of the iPhone, new Android devices were introduced to the market in 2008. Since they were manufactured by multiple companies, there was no standardization to their sizes, unlike the iPhone. When the first iPad was released in 2010, that created entirely new device sizes to design for. Creating a separate website for each device would be time and cost prohibitive, so better, more fluid solutions had to be found. The solution to this was responsive design. Responsive design took a different approach to the issue. Instead of creating brand new sites for each device, it simply moved the existing layout around to better fit within a range of device sizes. Responsive design uses the concept of fluid design, where the layout stretches and shrinks based on the percentage width of the browser. However, it adds breakpoints. So a browser window that is less than 1024 pixels wide would show the same elements, but in a new layout, less than 768 pixels would show a new layout again. This meant that design would work between standard device sizes without cutting off any of the content or having excessive margins. Some websites still use adaptive design as a way of creating an optimized user experience for different devices and different sizes. Amazon uses adaptive design to create a mobile experience that loads 40% faster than its desktop website. Most other websites use responsive design, so the designs change as the browser size changes as well. Here we have Dropbox as an example with its design in different browser sizes. Using a responsive design means you only have to deliver content once and then provide different CSS layouts for a different range of devices. The way you can tell if a site is responsive or adaptive is by changing your browser size. A truly adaptive site will not change completely with browser resizing, whereas a responsive website will. Now that you understand what adaptive and responsive designs are, you need to learn the technology behind it. Since most people in this unit are using Bootstrap, we will focus on that first. Bootstrap was developed by Twitter in 2011. Initially, it was called Twitter Blueprint and was released as an open source project for others to use. The front-end framework speeds up production of websites by creating a CSS style sheet that developers and designers can use for their website. Bootstrap uses a 12-column wide grid. This gives a lot of flexibility in your website layout. So here we have 12 columns, each 1 column wide. This shows you 6 columns or 6 sections that are 2 columns wide. Here we've got 4 columns, which are 3 columns each wide, or 4 sections. Here we have 3 sections, 3 columns, that are 4 columns wide, 2 sections or 2 columns which are 6 columns wide each, and you can use any combination of those, because you're not just restricted to one width of column. You can use rows with different numbers of columns to create your layout. So here we have a simple layout with 12 column wide header, 3 column wide menu next to a 9 column wide main content area. You can also make more complex layouts. So here we have 2 columns for the logo and 10 for the header, 12 for the menu, then 3 columns for text, 3 columns for text, and 6 columns for images all side by side, and then 12 columns for the footer. You can use even more complex layouts using the 12 column grid. So here you can see there's a couple of extra rows in there with different column widths. So now to add the responsive design. You can use Bootstrap to change your layout depending on the browser size. There are 5 discrete sizes in Bootstrap 4: extra small, which is the default, small, medium, large, and extra large. It inherits up, so everything is extra small. So it doesn't actually use XS anymore, but it will inherit up from just the col until a larger size is specified and encountered. So .col is extra small, phones less than 576 pixels wide. Small is for phones between 576 and 768. Medium is 768 to 992 pixels wide. Large is between 992 and 1200 pixels, and extra large is greater than 1200 pixels. So you can see how it is written in Bootstrap. .col means for the extra small size. .col -sm is for the next size up. For medium, it's .col -md for large .col -lg and then for extra large .col -xl. So how would we code this? If you're going to have the first column the whole width, you could do col XL12 or col XL, and that would be for the large device. Now the thing is, if your header is 12 columns wide for everything, you can just say col. You can see in the row below that we've got col XL3 and col XL9, and that means for extra large sizes greater than 1200 pixels, this is the layout that you need to use. This is the original layout on a medium device, and here you would say col MD12 or col MD, col MD3, col MD9. And if you want to modify the layout, because that of course was the same layout as the extra large, you might widen the first column so it becomes col MD4, col MD8. And then to modify it again for an extra small device, col 12, col 12, col 12. That's usually the safest thing, because on an extra small device, you really do want things to be just one column, otherwise the columns get too narrow. So for the header, your class would be col 12. For navigation, it would be col 12, col MD4, col XL3, and for content, col 12, col MD8, and col XL9. And you can see how you can add multiple classes just by putting a space between them. So how would it look in the code itself? You've got your div class row, div class col, contents of the header, and div. For the navigation, you'd have div class row, div class col12, col md4, col xl3, your contents of the navigation, ndiv, ndiv. For the content, you would have the class row for the first div, then div class col12, col md8, col xl9, contents of the main section, ndiv, ndiv. And that takes care of Bootstrap. So next we have media queries if you are using custom CSS. If you're just beginning this, I would recommend skipping the next part. It may get a bit complicated. So media queries you need to add to your CSS style sheet. You put the media query at the bottom of the sheet, very important, so that nothing else will override it. The code itself looks like at media only screen and max width 768 pixels if you're doing an alternative layout for a small device. If you're doing an alternative layout for a large device, it would be at media only screen and min width 768 pixels. So you see the difference between max width if you're designing it for a small device, min width, so it's designing for the minimum width of 768 if you're changing the design for the larger device. And we'll break this up in just now to explain what each of these sections of the code mean. So we've got the code at media only screen and max width 768 pixels. Well, let's break that down. The at media rule is saying to the browser, use the following CSS. The only means, however, only do it in these instances. So it's giving parameters for when you should use it. Screen means use it only if it is a screen device. So that leaves out, if you need to print it or things like that. And means only if it's a screen and this other condition. And the other condition is the size of the browser. And that is if the maximum width is 768 pixels. In other words, if the screen is less than 768 pixels. And of course, if you had min width 768 pixels, the condition will be if the screen is greater than that. So just to recap, at media, only use this if it is a screen and if the width of the screen is either a maximum of 768 pixels or a minimum of 768 pixels. So media queries can be used for div width. So for instance, if on a smaller phone you want to change the width to 100% rather than 50% or something like that. It can be used to change the font size. So if you want the font size to increase on smaller devices to make it easier to read. It can be used for different background color. So if it would be easier to read it on a phone with greater contrast, you can change the colors. And in fact, all CSS instructions can be changed using a media query. So just to recap, adaptive design delivers a different website design for different device sizes, and it also delivers different content. Responsive design changes the website layout for different browser sizes and, importantly, different ranges of browser sizes. Bootstrap allows you to use multiple classes to change the layout depending on the browser size, and media queries allow you to customize exactly how the CSS instructions change depending on the browser size.